So, welcome back. I'm finally getting around to it. Yes, I know it's been a few weeks since I did the first version, but here we are. So, a bit of difference. I've had some time to think, obviously, and I said I was going to do all sorts of different things to this, like put the white triangle underneath and everything. But I suddenly thought, well, no, this is meant to be a guide on how to put this thing together. If you get it as your first kit at Christmas. So yeah, I'm just going to build it a lot more simply. There are some bits I will do that are more suitable for me with it, but I'll explain that as I do it. So I'll say this bit is for me because of the way I prime it or the way I whatever. But they are useful things perhaps for you to look at and maybe look at doing yourself, because again, priming is the key to your paint sticking. So yes, there are two different forms of primers. There's a spray primer, and you can get a paintable primer. Look for Vallejo surface primer. It comes in a bottle. It's done for airbrushes, but just keep thin layers. Just put a thin layer down. It doesn't cover everything. Don't worry. The priming agent will be on, and that's the bit you want. Just because the colour isn't all over it, it doesn't really matter. Then you can just build your thin layers of actual red, in this case, up afterwards. For speed and ease, I will be spray priming mine, so there'll be little cuts in the video as I go and do those things. Okay, so here we are. Yes, so as you can see, we got stage 1 here to do, which is to cut out the cockpit tub and put the seats in. So we'll do that. So hopefully this serves as a decent guide to those of you who may get this kit for Christmas. And if you get stuck building it, you should be able to come and see me go through each stage. If you can't find the part, you should be able to look for it. I'll point each one out and we'll do it that way. Okay, so let's get underway, shall we? So, part 17. Now, both the same. So there's 2 here. Part 17, and we locate the other part, which is part 14, which is this one here. So they're all together, these ones. Okay, so I'm just going to use my side cutters to cut them all out. Also, you may need an adult to help you with this if you're youngster, so you don't hurt yourself. There we go. Okay, so there's our parts all cut out. I see someone's got milkshake on their hand. Sorry about that. Get that cleaned up quickly. Right. On the old trousers, as it were. Anyway, so there's our parts for step 1. You can see it's very helpfully tied together to glue. But before we glue, we need to clean them up. Now, the way I recommend for you folks at home, your first kits, is to get yourself a file. You don't want anything like that. That's way too harsh. Okay, just pop to Wilco's or something like that and get a standard nail file. Lot more kind to your bits, and just be gentle. Don't push into it. Just nice and gentle. Remember, it's easier to take it away than it is to add it back. So yeah, but I'll be using the scalpel just for the sake of ease. This is one of the things for my bit of ease here. There we are. And there's the seats. So, little bit of an aside, I've never actually built a Hawk before. This is my first Hawk. So be careful with that bit there, because you don't want to lose. There's these two lugs here, one there, one there. You don't want to lose those because they are part of the seat detail. Okay. Now there's nothing wrong with using the glue that comes with the kit. Just be very careful. Don't squeeze it really hard. Just nice and gentle. It will almost come out on its own if you angle it correctly. Okay. So safety first. Put the knife away before we start. Okay. So here we are. We've got our parts. So let's just do what's called test fitting. That's where you just place the part in. Make sure it's just going to snugly fit where you want it to, like that. See? Do the other one. Just make sure it fits in. No goodness, there we are. So we've got both our seats in there now, so we can glue them. So, let's say nothing wrong with using that glue. If you can get a glue like this that's got a brush on the end, they're far more accurate to where you can apply it. So what we do, a bit of that. See, I've wipe off the excess. We don't need a huge amount, just a bit onto that bit there, as per our instructions. See the yellow bit, and then a bit onto that bit there, and we place our seats back in. So notice I put the glue away before I start doing my parts. It's paramount your tube of glue, the lid is on and done up before you start putting glue, because it start putting the parts together, because obviously if it dries up there, your kit build's coming to an end until you get some more glue. So there we are, and that bit in there like that. Ooh. And then they both fall out properly like that. So so what I've noticed is the seat doesn't actually touch the seem to touch the base. Okay, so here we are. Tip number one for this kit is that back panel where it goes up the back here. Just put a bit of glue up there as well. Push the seat back. It should then have something else to stick to and not fall out. There we are. Come on, Airfix, this is meant to be a starter kit. God. So we pop that to one side to dry. Go off, but we've got stuff we can do still. We've got a very exciting bit. I think this is an exciting bit. We've got the two halves of the fuselage to cut out. So we start to get something that resembles an aeroplane, which is very, very exciting. So there we are. So these parts, so you want A2 and A1. So sprue A, 1 and 2. There we are. So when cutting near an airfoil like this, don't cut right up to it, just cut slightly away like that, because you want to keep that shape. So with your file now you can take that down further. If you risk, if you get these clippers right up against it, you risk creating a divot in it if it rips out the attachment point. So just going around now, snipping out the rest of it. And this side's a lot easier. So this sprue is now empty, so we can now actually put this to be recycled. I put all my plastic sprues in the recycling afterwards. Just, you know, saves the environment, doesn't it? So, again, I'm just using my knife to clean this up. Mostly for speed as well. Obviously, you folks at home will need to take your time. Take your time with it as much as possible. But I don't want you sitting here spending your entire Christmas evening, or whatever, when you come to see the kit, having to sit there watching this video. Just make sure you work your way around and tidy up all those little attachment points. You can run your finger around it, you'll soon find them. This one there's not quite done. It's better. So that's that side. Right, so this one I'm going to start with that tail fin. So like I say, see that? You end up with a nice sharp corner there. Sharp's and well defined. Okay, so underneath. Just a bit of progress. That should be easy for you with your sanding your nail file. There we are. So that's all our attachment points now cleaned up. So next is more test fitting. So first off, I like to test fit the two fuselage files together first on their own, without anything in. That way you just make sure everything lines up nicely. See, that all goes together quite nicely, doesn't it? See, I call it the sighting bit now. So then we take that apart, because you see it wants us to put that in this step, and there's a line there for it to go into. Like that. So that all lines up. So now we just make sure that that all comes together nicely still with the cockpit tub in. There we are, you can see it does. Okay. Right. So, what I'm going to do here, this is something that's easy for me, is I'm actually going to take this now and I'm going to prime this bit. I'm going to prime in there, glue this in. So we'll glue that in now. And this is something you could do, but the way this kit's designed, you don't actually necessarily have to worry about it. Put glue in there. There. Now you see the kit actually tells you to glue along the side of the cockpit tub. But yes, because of these bits, which you don't get in a normal kit, this guide that it slots into there, you could actually get away painting the whole of that and then just not actually gluing it in, because it's not going to go anywhere. But yeah, so I'm going to go away, and once this is dry, I'm going to prime that up, and then we'll come back when I put some paint in it. Okay. Back. So now to put some paint in. So I'm going to use the kit paints here, if they'll behave. So we want this one, 64. It tells us here on the instruction sheet. So I have taken them outside, well-ventilated area, put a mask on, and I've spray primed the interior of both halves of the jet like that. So that's all nice and dry now and ready for some paint. So these are acrylic paints, and this is why we have to prime. We must prime for acrylic paint. They are water-based. They don't give off the foul odour of enamels. I know some people out there do enjoy the odour of enamels, but you don't want to go around sniffing paint. That's not a good thing. You don't do that. So we need some scissors to open this bag. So yeah, acrylic paint, you must prime it. I've seen some tutorials on the web where people don't prime, and they end up having to put more and more layers, and they end up quite thickly built up. But there's a layer of primer down, you should be good. So we do want one of these if we're using the kit paints, because we don't know how long this model's been sat on a shelf in a warehouse somewhere, and what the heat conditions and everything were. So we don't know how much it's separated. So talking separation, if you chaps wouldn't mind, get it back in there. Thank you very much. That's very, very kind of you. So yes, I'll even use the kit brush just to him. But because it's water based, we need a pot of water to wash our brush in, and just some kitchen towel will do for drying it. Okay. So I can see it says we want 64. Now 64 will be for this part, but also don't forget to do, you can see there, don't forget to do the cockpit sidewalls as well, because you potentially will see that. Okay, so let's use some scissors to carefully cut off the corner of that. Oh, that's going to need to cut across the whole thing. Get your fingers out of the way. And there's the brush. So we want 64. Now on these little pots, it does actually tell you on the side what it is. Okay, so you can give it a bit of a shake, you know, like the old, why are you doing it? But I've found there's not enough paint in here, traditionally, not enough paint in there to actually do that. So I'm just going to put it firmly on the table so I can open it gently as possible. And that's a rather nasty, gloopy mess. Okay. So I'm just going to use a cocktail stick here to actually try and just stir it around a bit and try and get into something resembling paint. Yeah, not going to be easy. That's more like paste. So again, because it's water based, we can just do that. And use a bit of our kitchen towel to wipe it off so we can reuse the cocktail stick. So once just putting your pineapple cheese on it. So what happens if you end up with the gunk like that? Well, we do have ways around this. So you get your brush. It's going to be easy to show you in this bit here. So you get your brush and just dab it. And just put the very tip into the water there. And into your paint. Wipe off the excess. Yeah. Okay. And then we can come into the aeroplane and we end up with something actually more resembling paint. So I'm going to go ahead and paint all of this 64 like it asks us to. And I'll bring it back when it's done. So, you join me back at the closing stages. I've painted one half. So this one I'm just going to literally just make sure I've do bits like this. Which it doesn't actually tell you to do any instructions. There we are, you get a top tip from me. Extra little bits there to be done. You can use that as a guide there as well. Because you know it's not going to come, and you don't need to go any lower than that. You don't need to do in there. Try and keep your paint all going in the wrong direction. For different areas, obviously. So like that I did down, these ones I did up, so I would say don't let the paint put you off. This is particularly bad paint in this model. I don't know, you put you off the hobby. Right, so there's a great example here. See here, you can't see the colour, but if you look, there is like a fog on it. The priming agent has hit, so we can still put our paint down. This is something else. I've checked through the whole instruction sheet. It didn't actually tell you to paint this at all, and they're not red. I don't know if they're grey, but I'm going to assume they are. You'd need to look at references for that. So because if they're black, you've got a black in the packet. So I'm just going to do them grey on this one. I've got a feeling this centre one is definitely grey. And I do like to do bits like this in a direction of travel. Just somehow it looks right when it's done. You can actually tell, it seems. So, yeah, there we are. So now those are all down. We can wash our brush. Really give it a good thrashing. If you ever watch Bob Ross, tap off the excess to beat the devil out of it. And then and if you notice I was doing that, it just try and keep the tip nice and pointy. Excuse me, my nose is running. So next, obviously, we want to put the lid back on the pot there, and there is our hawk interior done. You can do things if you feel like it. There is a basic instrument panel representation quartered each side, there and there. You won't see it once it's together, but you can if you want to do it for practice. So you may notice now there's primer and paint on bits that we want to glue together. So we don't glue paint to paint. So I'm going to have to use this because that's the only one I've got to hand. But obviously you use your nail file, and all you need to do is just gently go along and remove the paint and the primer from the areas you need to glue. my way around all the areas. Making sure we've got plastic to plastic continuity. Across the whole model. That's that side done. Now, obviously, for me, that should include in there. But, like I say, I don't think you need it on this one, so... But just for the sake of showing you guys that you can even take off the paint as well as the primer. Obviously, make sure it's dry before you do this. But there we are. You see, you get the plastic coming through. So just again, just in all areas, I'm making sure that you've got good continuity in the areas, in the areas to be glued. Even if a little circular motion helps. It's a bit harder on the side with the connecting pegs, but they're just there to guide the parts together. You don't actually get to put glue on those. So there we are, all cleaned up. So now we do the test fit again. Don't forget, paint is adding layers to something, so you're not necessarily going to fit as well as you did before, but there you are. Okay, so now we can put some glue. We can introduce the glue to it again. So I'm going to build it largely as per the instructions, just to keep it nice and simple. So you can hold the tail. I'd recommend holding the tail here because it's already one complete piece. Right, then just work your way around nice and gently. Enough, you just want enough just to have it form a bond. Okay, and then we line up the two halves and close them up. Said we line up and closed up. Right, it's just this case of letting that dry now. It's nothing too arduous really, is it? Nothing too difficult. Okay, so the front here is not quite coming together as I'd like. So it's gonna run. And again, this is something for me. You could put this on the end of a cocktail stick if you wanted to, and sort of just run it into the gap there. To fix that. So there we are. That's that bit. So once this is dry, I will come back for you. Right. So that's all nicely dried up now. We can actually pop it to one side because we don't need it for a minute. Because next is step 3 and 4. So 3 and 4 here. So it tells you what you want sprue B, and the sprue B has the wings on, so it's not going to be that one. Put it to one side. It's this one here. Okay. And it actually shows you in silhouette. Orientate the parts of the sprue the same way. Shows silhouette that our parts for part 3, which is B6 and B7, should be there and there. There and there. So we check, there's 6 and there's 7. So let's pop our paintbrush to one side. Okay. So these are the air intakes. Pop that sprue up there because we'll need it again in a minute for next stage. So again, I'm just going to clean off the parts. Okay, so again we do our test fit. Like that. Lovely. Okay, so it's going to be easy to put the glue on this bit, I reckon. So what we do is just a bit of glue around the edge like that. Push those two pieces together so they're nice and firm. And you put that to one side. So the way I like to do this is, if you have your instruction sheet to hand, is I'll put the part, where possible, I'll put it actually on the stage that I built it in. So you can pop it in that bit there if you want to. So you know you've got the right one for the right side. Because these things sometimes are handed, which means that they'll only fit one side or the other. Sorry, little quick drink break there. Okay. So, stage 4. Okay. Oh dear, it's all coming out now, isn't it? Oh, sorry, I do beg your pardon. Right, now we'll continue. Obviously you can take your time far more than I am currently. You could even take the paint scheme further should you wish and you feel able to. You could do a lot more research on that into things. There's plenty of photographs on the web of the red arrows. Try and check out their official website as well. And you might find some stuff on there. Okay, so there's our two parts. So again, holding it like that, just going to gently. Now, has anyone spotted the flaw in putting the parts on the instruction sheet? I'll give you a second while I put this together. And there we are. Oh, I need to turn the page. Did you notice? Oh well, not a problem. What we do is pick up our parts and we'll keep them in the same left and right. So you know that's 3 and that's 4. Keep them that way round. So, turn the page. Okay, so rather irritatingly, it doesn't actually tell you which one goes on which side. So, this is where we have to use our noggin. So you see here on the picture, there's like a little cutout, which matches this little cutout here. So actually, having this part on this side is wrong. We want it on this side because that fits the wing root in. So put them that way around. So you notice actually on the kit itself there's a little indent there. So pick it up and we'll just do a test fit. And you see that all lines look lovely. There's a lovely continuation of the line here along the side, and that matches that indent under here. Okay. So we can be sure that we've got it in the right place. I'm just going to glue that one in now. There is a gap there, but I don't think you're going to do anything about that. And again, always do the test fit. There we are. See, that one didn't quite sit in initially. Now it does. So this is not a snap together kit. It just seems like one, but it's not a snap together kit. Again, just doing something there. There we go. Okay. So our Hawk now has what I like to call putting in the engine that stage. It now has, in theory, has an engine in here somewhere. In there. I'll just come out the exhaust pipe back here. So, next up, it wants us to put the tailplane on. So again, we want sprue B, which is this one here. And you've got 10 and 9. 10 goes on this side, so put the plane around the same way. 10 goes on this side, 9 goes on that side. So again, remember what I said earlier. We cut slightly away from the wing. And that head's coming up. So when you've got it in this sort of way, I'd advise doing one then the other. because that way you definitely know you've got the right one. So again, line it up, we just test fit it. That's fitting in very nicely. So just going to take a little bit of glue. Put it there. And there we have it. There's that one. So next we have this side to do. Number 9. Again, just gently cutting away till we get nice clean leading edge there. Get a test fit. Goes in very nicely. Get a distinctive drooping tail of the hawk. And there we are. So that's stage 5 done. We're doing well. Motoring along. Right, stage 6. Well, it's B3, B4. So we're on the same part again. Same sprue again. This is your sprue. This big framework. So we've got one, that one, and that one, basically. So our wing, upper, there's our wing, lower. See, that sprue part is now what I'd call dead. There's nothing else on it, so we can put that into our recycling pile. Okay, so excuse me. Next we clean up the wings. And take your time with this, and especially pay careful attention to the front and back, because that has to fit into the slot underneath here. Same goes for the lower wing part. I'm going to start with those two bits because it just guarantees that we keep them. I'm just doing that test fit. And look how nicely they come together. Just want a bit of glue now to actually make that permanent, and it'll be good. So it shows you again, just literally around the edge. And don't put it in your water. Make sure that all closes up nicely, nice and firm. And you want to leave that to dry for a bit, maybe some clamps on it, some clothes pegs. Just sit there and clamp it for you. So I'm not entirely happy with that joint at the back. Just gonna make sure that's nice, and that's it. So now put the wings onto the fuselage like that, and look at that fit. Oh, we've got an aeroplane. That's not even glued. Okay, so we can now put some glue on that. Now it says just to put it in the middle bit here. Personally, I would just, okay, let's do those. Personally, I would just do the wing root as well, both front and back, and there's actually no harm. And again, you could use a cocktail stick to put a bit down and then just sort of spread it about a bit. I want a nice firm gap join. We don't want the wing falling off. That could be very bad mid-display. That's it. So that's a nice firm join now. And there is our Red Arrows Hawk, actually looking like a plane. Now it says here, paint exterior colours after the stage, exterior rear back for painting guide. Now I don't agree with that, because we're closing the undercarriage up for this one. You've got a choice here. You can have it wheels down, which if you feel capable of tackling, brilliant. But this is a display jet. I like to do them in flight, because also they've not mentioned anything about putting a weight in the nose. And if I put it on my thing, you see it wants to tip backwards. So my finger's roughly where the wheels would be. It's just going to want to sit on its tail all the time. So if you put a weight in the nose, it's just going to keep tipping. So I would advise for your first build, as this one comes with a stand, to do it wheels up. You can do it wheels down and put it on the stand still. There's nothing stopping you doing that. So if you did want to put the wheels down, you can, but have it sort of landing or something maybe, or taking off, as there's no flaps deployed. But yes. Okay. So we're gonna do it wheels up. C11 and C18. So Spruce C is our last one here. There's 18. Yeah. And 11 is over here. Okay. So we're going to cut 11 out first. Now these are going to be slightly more awkward because they have to be nice solid fits. It's a bit harder to test fit them. So we've just got to clean up and trust. That they will fit fully, because the only thing we can do is orientate it. Now there's this end's longer than that end. On the picture here, that back bit's longer than that bit, so I assume the long bit goes to the back. And it seems to fit quite nicely as is there, so I'm not going to push that down because I also want to put some glue in. Tell you what. Bit of glue in there just to try and help it stay, and we don't want these falling out. And there we are. So that's C11 and C18 now. Again, clean it up and then just do a slight test fit in there. That appears like it's going to go in nicely. So just put a bit of glue in there. And push it in. Make sure it's nice and flush with the bottom of the aeroplane. Like that. There we are. There's our undercarriage done. And that's, because it's a choice between that or that, we can ignore the next bit and just turn straight over to the back. Right. Okay, so what have we got here? Well, we've got our pilots to put in and our canopy to put on. Okay. Right, so it says don't glue the canopy in. Right, so first up, something about the red arrows is they don't have two pilots, they have one per hawk. And during the display, there'll only be fly past, you might get the one in the guy in the back. That'd be on one of the blues. So you want to do a suit, their suit, blue. The pilot suit, you want to do their suit red. But we're going to we'll put there's no blue paint included, so it would be going outside my remit to do that. So we're going to leave the chap in the person in the back out, and we're going to put the person in the front in as a pilot. So I think the easiest way to actually do this, because it's looking at it, you're not going to see the feet. You're not going to see the feet by the time they're in the side there, so don't worry about the feet. I think we're just going to go ahead and glue them in, and then we'll paint the bone dome with the helmet and that once it's in. Okay. So they're both 19s, no matter which one you do. And we will be doing this without primer. If you really want to, you can prime them up, paint them on the sprue before you put them in. I'll just save a bit of time here, I will do this without primer. Shouldn't hurt as much because it's only a small area. I want to put some white paint on, and once the canopy's on, we won't be touching this again. So glue on his bum, down their bum, and in. Okay, that Alright, so now we get our paint again. This time we want white, number 34. Tell you something, if the red's like this, we're going to have a really bad time with the red paint. Oh my lord. The pigment's actually separated almost entirely from the medium in there. The medium's clear at the bottom. Just see it swishing around in there. Cocktail stick comes in, at least mix it up and give it a chance. Give us a chance. Now white's notoriously hard paint to paint on, so if this goes higgly-piggly for you, don't worry about it too much. Okay, so hopefully you can see the difference the primer not being there is making. That's literally that for that pilot there. Right, so what we're going to do, we are going to get some black. I'm just going to do his face mask as well. His Ultra mask. Their Ultra mask. Sorry, I'm doing those. Get the black. Hopefully the black's somewhat better. That hope soon went out the window. It's just insane. I'm going to check the red before I go anywhere near it. I might have to use my own red. Give some suggestion of the oxygen mask in there. I'll have to come back to the white later as well. Let's just check the red now. Yeah, the red's awful. So honestly, what I would do, folks, is I would use the grey. The grey seems to be alright, add a bit of water. The other three, go and buy yourself an acrylic black. Find a red, an acrylic red that suits, and a white. White, I would honestly go for Games Workshop's Corax white. It costs a bit more than most of the paints you'll find, but Citadel paint. So you're looking for that sort of pot, but the white will go down beautifully. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that white to dry so I can do a bit of touch up in a minute, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the canopy. Right, so return. I just managed to put another coat of white on top of the helmet there for our pilot, so they're now done. So the next step is to get our scissors and our packet with the canopy in. Okay, open that. Again, get an adult to help you if you're not sure yourself. And there's our canopy. Okay. See, they're actually getting to paint the canopy there. White. Oh my lord. That's exterior detail, so I won't worry about that too much just yet. But we want to get that cut out and we want to get it onto the aeroplane, so let's do that. Now this is one of those bits where I have to say, this is how I do it. Yeah, you're welcome to copy it if you want, or you can follow it as per the instructions here, where you've already painted it in the previous steps, and so it's already painted at this stage. But this is how I've always done my kits, and this is how I'm going to continue to do them. Yeah, so like I say, you can feel free to attempt to try this if you want to. Good skill to have if you intend to stay in the hobby, building. It's a fantastic hobby to get into. So many friendly people willing to help, and can really boost your confidence as well. Because even you've got no one to show there and then, you've always got that feeling of, I did that. You know, like today, without me sitting down here and doing this, this would still be a pile of bits in the box over there. So that bit goes into there first. That bit just slots down into there. So it says not to glue it, and that is quite a nice tight fit. So there we are. I mean, you could leave it there if you wanted to, and just put the transfers on, and or even not put the transfers on, you could just go and play with it now. So there we go. Right, so the next bit is the bit that is for me, and it's a little bit tricky maybe for some, but it's just the way I do things. So it involves this stuff here, masking tape, and this is to mask up the canopy ahead of priming the whole thing. Because again, don't forget, it wants you to paint the canopy, but you're going to want some primer on there first, so you probably want to try masking it a bit anyway. So you can use scissors for this. I'm just going to use a scalpel, and I'm just going to show you a quick bit, and then I'll cut away and bring you back when it's all done. So like this, find the line between where the frame is, like that. So you can see I've left a gap for the frame, and it's covering over the bit I want to stay clear. Okay, so I'm just going to continue doing that, and when I return, you have to see it all done, and then I'll go off and prime it. Okay, right folks, so I return almost an hour later and the canopy is all masked up. So you see thin strips I've cut out for the majority of it, some bigger bits in there. This is actually the last of my original roll of Tamiya masking tape. There it is. There's the empty bit there. In fact, I will put that in recycling because it is cardboard. So yeah, recycle what I can. So yeah, so that is the Airfix Hawk, Red Arrows Hawk starter set, all ready for priming. So how I will do this with my spray primer is I will over the top, let that dry, and then flip it over and do the underside and let that dry. And once that's dry, you will see it again once it's dry, and we'll start painting. And now, obviously, I won't be using these paints. Now, for the outside, I will be using a different paint. Find a red that works for you. You've got a nice reference here in the colour of the aircraft. The box art will give you another nice reference to it. You can even take that pot with you because the shade's not too bad really there. So you could even do that. Okay, I've got a red that works for me for my Red Arrows aircraft. I built a Gnat earlier in the year and I used a slightly different red, slightly darker, but it really worked for me. And that's one of the things as well, when you're building a model, there is no right or wrong way really to do it. And it's also about your own artistic interpretation of the final look of the aircraft and or the model in general. When you're building a tank, a boat, a ship, or a submarine, or a car, or even one of the old Airfix kits such as the Blue Tits or Henry VIII or something. You know, you got those. You got your own little flair you can add to it. Okay, so I'll go off and prime that now, and I'll see you all shortly. So, welcome back. You can see that the Hawk is now primed fully in grey. That's using a Citadel Mechanica Standard Grey Rotocan. Like I say, you can do it with the brush-on primer, as I talked about earlier. So, the red I like to use is the Citadel Mephiston red. Personally, this works. As you can see, it's a fair bit darker than what it comes up, but I like the effect you get. So, give that a good shake. And just going to get some and put it onto the palette. Here, now this is just some glossy paper really. You don't have to use the palette if you don't want to. You could use an old carton, so you get some Mr. Kipling's or other brand cakes that come in a little plastic container. Wash it out, and you can use that as a palette. The palette just lets us control our paint. Again, put a little water in it. Just in it slightly like that. There we go. So this paint's really nice thick base, and we can just grab our Hawk and start painting. You see, once it's on the plane, it actually is quite a bright red. Really irritated about that gap at the front. Oh well. You're right. Just again, make sure you're keeping all your paint going in the same direction with your strokes. You see on the canopy, I'll just literally just paint over it because I've masked it. Safe to literally just paint over it. Like that. Okay. Excuse me. I might need a couple of coats, but don't be too tempted to go back over where you've been. Let it dry properly and then give it another coat. Otherwise you risk putting the paint up. So you see, by this method we are slowly but surely covering the whole aeroplane in red. So I'm going to carry on and do that. Step you down a bit so you can see more. And when you return, the whole thing should be red. So this is the way I found of letting it dry. So you can see the Hawk is now red. Now it's not a perfect coating. If you want to go more perfect, obviously let it thoroughly dry and then go over again, another layer, keep it in the same direction. as I'm just doing this to quickly show you how to build it, I'm just going to sort of chug through as it were. Now there's one little bit here that needs to be noted. We have a white stripe, goes round this area here. Okay, and I've done it red on mine obviously, but this is the Corex white base. This is the one I recommended for your white. So I was going to show you in live vision it going on. Now I'm not going to thin this one. See how much nicer that is comparative to the awful one it gave you. So I'm still using the Airfix starter set brushes. There's still the brush that came with the kit. I'm going to pick up my jet. I've just noticed some more red I need to do. Gosh darn it. Oh well, right. So note that it doesn't on the box art. Sorry, not the camera. It doesn't actually go onto the bottom of the frame. It's just literally that top piece. So bear that in mind when you are painting it. So keeping it there. Basically just layer that on. And obviously I can be a little bit messy with it because I've mastered the canopy, and you can all have a good laugh at my expense in a minute when I take it off, take off the masking, and it's all a bit raggedy underneath. So that's a bit of excess there I didn't want. Okay, so I'll come back again when that's all dried up and we'll put the transfers on. And I was going to tend to a couple of areas of red I just noticed. Tried to get them all before I turned the camera back on, but hey ho. Right, welcome back. I've touched up those areas, and actually you may notice the red has been fully blocked out. It bothered me too much. So we've got our white bit on the banding there, all nice and done. Actually, don't want to risk that. So it's still a bit of red showing, so I was going to quickly touch that up. But you notice I brought in the transfers or decals. Both are correct ways of saying it. Pick the one you're happiest with and go with that. Okay. I don't want any red near that section there. Incidentally, I found this is a really cool way of propping it up while it dries. But yes, I've been around the whole aircraft again, and you can see what I mean. The red looks very different between that and the plastic. Okay, so we actually want to bring in our box here. Now this can be useful if you have a pen to hand, because you can, as we put them down, we can go around crossing them off, you know. So let's do it. So what have I got? What do I need? What do we need to put our transfers down? Okay, so a clean tissue. That's always a good start. Okay. Right. You want the pen, and you also want some scissors. Again, if you're a younger viewer, then you might want an adult to help you with this bit. Okay, so if we look, let's just dust that off a bit. If we look, number 9 is our first one that goes from here along to there, and we locate number 9 on the sheet, which is this one here. A bit awkward to get to. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut very carefully along the top of the one above it. Now when we get to there, you'll notice that these two are both under number 12. Okay, so we need to be careful of that. There's actually all 4 of these here in this corner. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do it this way. Where you come in there and you cut round that, like that. And then we can simply take that bit away from there and we'll pop it up there out of the way. We do not want to get that wet before time, you know. Now you'll see some guides online that will tell you about putting a gloss coat down. In just under 30 years of modelling, I've not had to yet put a gloss coat down for transfers. Okay, there are products out there which can help you, and I've actually found those to be more than adequate, but this is how I grew up doing it as well. It's just literally doing it this way. So this is a touch more style for me. So now you see I've managed to split them down to just the 2 we want. We've got no others in our vicinity, but we want number 9, which is that bottom one. So again, now this is where you have to be very, very careful. Just come in. Incidentally, this is a takeaway tray. So again, just put it through the dishwasher or wash it up, you know, depending on what's handiest. And yeah, use that to put your water in. So that's number 8. So we're going to pop number 8 to one side, and we want number 9. Now what we want to do is, now we know that's definitely our transfer, is we want to just cut that off there, because that number is also a transfer. We don't want that to come off and go onto our hawk. So we can see from the diagram that the transfer will end up here, going into the intake area. Basically lines up almost directly centre. You can see it goes through the middle of that panel there at the front and round to the nose. So what we're going to do is pop that in the water, make sure it soaks, but we're not going to leave it in there. And this is where you'll want some tweezers. Sorry, I should have mentioned in the beginning, want some tweezers. And with the tweezers, once it's in the water, just pop it out and pop it to one side, like that. Now I'm going to do every single stage of applying these. I've skipped where I could, like painting. You don't need to watch me paint the, you know, you can see how to paint an aircraft red. But I am going to take you through all the transfers, just so you can help locate each one, and we can overcome any problems that might arise, rather than going, oh, that's a problem, I need to start the video off again. But yes, I'm absolutely determined to have this done before I go to bed tonight. So I suppose you need to, you could put your hand in, but you are going to risk getting everything else wet. So basically, what we're looking for is the transfer just to start moving like that. You see that move? Okay, and then we get our model. Somehow that works for me. It doesn't work totally. Okay, fair enough. Let's try again. Alright, so and we're just going to use the tweezers just to tease. Don't force it too much, don't stab it, just tease it off. Don't panic, just take your time. Right. Okay, so see the gloss surface does actually help you move it around a bit, but like I say, I've not, just make sure it's nice and wet. To keep it nice and moist. Okay. And again, just using those tweezers, just gently position it so we know it has to go up to there, and then we know it almost basically goes through the middle of the to bring it to the front like that. Okay, and then it curves round. So there we are. And then we get our tissue and just dab off the excess water. And there we are. Here's the start of our transfers going on. So put that into the dead pile and put our tissue back out of the way. So then we can get our pen and we can cross off number 9. There we are. So next it's number 7, which is the Royal Air Force lettering. Okay. So I called the other bit giving it an engine. This painting it and putting the transfers on is very much, to me, is bringing it to life now. So number 7's down there at the bottom. I think we can get to that with the cuts we made earlier. We can get to that nice and easily. Just by going straight across there. Just a cut needed up here. So if you decide to take up the hobby, again, something, and it's something I say sadly didn't do, because I think some kits where I had a problem with this actually could have been saved ultimately. And that is at the end of the project. So you really do want to mask your canopies if you're going to do this, or you just put some masking over the whole thing, even if you don't mask the frame off. Is get yourself like a spray varnish, a matte varnish, or so you got the finish you want. Gloss can be a bit, you know, so, but yeah, and just, or you can get paintable varnishes. They will work. Just meant to keep it thin, build up a layer or two, and that will just seal in all the transfers. So if you handle it, so you want to show people, look at my model I made, you're not rubbing those transfers off again. You know, just keeps it safe. That's looking pretty cool already, isn't it? So I'm just going to take that out there. Oh, and it falls back in again. And I also advise using tweezers for yourselves. Yep, it's moving. Right. And we can see we want the R to end up basically in the middle of that there. So if I see, and the E is just to the right of those. So if we position our E roughly to the right of those, it's going to slip off any minute now. Okay, so no panic, no fuss, just gently use the tweezers to bring it down. Sometimes your finger is better for it, so make sure, obviously, like I say, to keep it wet. And then you can look at it. I'm trying to keep this on camera for you. You can look at it and make sure that the stripes lining up. Take it to this one, but you can see now that the R is now over that line. So it's just a case of make sure it's nice and level, really. And there we go. So again, we just come in with our tissue. Tissue is better for this because it's softer. Dab off all that excess. Like that. So there we are. Okay, so we can cross number 7 off. Let's see, we're motoring along now. It's easier when this is on the normal instruction paper rather than on the back of the box. Right, now we're going to want number 5. Number 5. It's one of our swoops up. So let's pop the jet over there. Now I think I can see number 5 already. It's this one here. So again, just very carefully cutting it out. Okay. I need another tissue for my nose. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Just going to pull that out, shake off any excess. This one's a bit of a bigger one, so it might take a few more seconds or so to loosen up. Remember, it's not erased. There we go. So we can see that starts, just touches the back of the leading edge of the wing to go at the tail there. So that's not the idea, chaps. Come on. Oh. That's it. Stick to the aeroplane. Thank you. Right. Let's see if we're going to have problems with you, aren't we? Right. Alright, these 2 little boxes, panel boxes back there, the stripe needs to go over, so I'm just going to keep it nice and wet while I manoeuvre it. And it seems to go above that panel line, even though they haven't put that panel line in. This drawing isn't that accurate, I will admit. Alright, looking at the transfer for the tail, I think that one actually just wants to meet it at the bottom. That's my judgment, is that's roughly how it should look. Maybe a little bit further back. So actually what I'd recommend doing, the way I'd recommend doing this, is to there's that little circle bit there, which is here, is that actually, if I was you folks at home, is I would start on the tail and come down. So that's what I'll do on the other side, and we'll see if that's easier. So again, patting that all down into there. Some funny shapes. That's where the marker set of marker would work really well, because it's got divots to settle into. But we've got something resembling a Red Arrow's aircraft, haven't we? Let's fill some water on that side, so let's just mop that all up. Right, and next we have... So it's a real shame they didn't include that big white triangle to underneath, because I know they have done it for other kits. So we can cross that one off. And move on to number 3 here, which is XX310. It's the aircraft serial number. And now I believe there's 2 number 3s, and they're both number 3 for both sides, which is these 2. Now this is going to be a little bit more awkward to get to, so I'm going to have to carefully cut round the number 4 and number 5 here. All the way, actually. Let's go all the way to there. To number 3. Okay, so carefully cutting around that. You'll find some kit transfers are really well laid out to allow you to get around them all, and some are absolutely atrocious and you'll be cursing the name of the kit manufacturer. But take your time, they are all accessible eventually. Just make sure you try and keep your numbers near it. So that's number 7 there, which we used that earlier. So you see we got 3 here, then we've got the serial number, then we've got another serial number, so I'm going to use the one without the number next to it this time round. So when we look at number 3 for the other side, obviously we can find it easily. See, that's how stupid I am cabbage looking. And this one I'm actually just going to put it in the tweezers, and I'm just going to do this just to make sure it's nice and wet, and put it here on the side to start soaking. So why do we paint it when it's already in red? Well, obviously, like I said earlier, if you're happy not to, if it's your first build, you just want to get it built and go straight to this stage, that's absolutely fine. No one can tell you you're wrong. If that's how you want to build every kit, is never paint a kit. You'll have grey in one, some do come in coloured plastic, but most of them be grey. Because grey isn't the colour apparently. No, but you know what I mean. Some will come pre-coloured plastic like this, red, which is the colour of the final product, isn't it? The colour of the final aircraft. That's absolutely fine. But painted always tends to look better. So if you are painting, even if it's, say, you've got a black primer, do paint the black over the primer, because it will just look so much better. Whether you're spraying that or what have you. That shouldn't take too long to do. So I'm just going to take off the excess there. And this one goes just here under the tail. Well, it's not particularly easy to actually see on there. I can see there's a little bit under the tailplane, so roughly, I think roughly there should do on that bit. Okay, just make sure it's nice and level. And again, we're going to come in and just take off any excess water, because you don't want it. One, you don't want it easily movable if you do catch it, and 2, you don't want the water running onto another transfer and then making that loose and moving, you know, and so on. You know, it's one of those. Right. So let's do that. All right. So now we want 11 and then 4. Wow. Really are getting there. So 11, I think, is at the bottom here. Yep, 11's on this one on this side. So I'm just going to cut that there. I'm going to get 11 cut off first, like that. Pop that in our water. Make sure my fingers are nice and dry. And I'm going to pick up this one, and I was going to take the number 11 off here, just so there's no confusion when we come to do the other one. I mean, this one shouldn't confuse much, this kit overall, because it's a lot simplified, but I'm also trying to show you some good practice, what I believe to be good practice for building kits in general when it comes to doing things like transfers. Because one of the other things you do by doing that is, if it comes up, if it lifts off the backing paper, it could float around in here, then you devil of a job chasing it around. And obviously, as I say, because it's a lot simplified, there's none of the stencil data on this, so none of the sort of fuel goes here, don't walk on this bit, please don't shove a jack underneath this bit because you'll go straight through the bottom, or whatever. You know, it's one of those things which more intense kits, shall we say, more advanced kits will have loads of stencil data. I mean, if you build something like an F4 Phantom, that aircraft is a flying stencil, really. So yeah. Alright, I'm just going to test this. Is this? Yeah, well, that's nice and loose. Surprised me a little bit because it's quite a big transfer. So this one, I'm actually going to keep it on this water pod because we want it to match up with our friend there at the bottom. So I'm just going to gently bring it down. Let's find out that my calculations are totally off for the placing of the first one, which is why I reckon the other side we're just going to do it that way. Also, we want those two white bits to marry up nicely. I think I've only gone got away with it. Maybe you can pop in with a bit of white paint later on and just touch up that line to make sure it's really nice and together if you don't quite make it. But I'm actually rather pleased with the fact that we managed to get it almost there. Okay, so now we want number 4. It gets harder to do that when that's number 4 here at the top. Which I do remember we had earlier, didn't we? So that's number 4. This goes right to the top of the fin, so we're using a lot of our red to make up the shortfall there. I'm assuming that the red isn't on the transfer, so 1, it doesn't look different from whatever colour you do end up painting it, and 2, you are trying to have red and white together, but mind you, there's another rondel, so it is possible. So yeah. See like that crinkle there with the Marcosol, that would just disappear. It'd all sort of soften off and down. But that's advanced techniques, which I will do. I will choose a kit at some point and do a full start to finish build as a video series like this one, or a video like this one, and you can see sort of, I might call it something like my next steps with model making or something like that, and we'll look at taking it from here to what I would do normally as a more advanced kit style of building. Now, I'm no means, I'm not a professional, I'm not an expert. This is just the way I do it. I'm just trying to help out other folks like me. So, you know, when I was starting out, there was no such thing as YouTube. It's just me and my dad. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2004, so everything I've learned since then has had to be from the web. Take break, very important. From the web. And I've actually learned an enormous amount from a Japanese model making company. Program. Custom SP. It's on YouTube occasionally. It gets taken down quite a lot. It did do anyway at one point. But now, for those who know me and my railway interest, you know I've got interest in it, but this actually predates that. Or predates my modding my more active interest in Japan. This actually stems. I was building a U-boat, and I was looking for some guidance on how to do something on it, and came across one of these videos on there. So again, we just want to make sure that's really nicely tucked up there, right to the edge. Like that, and then we get the joining of the flag there at the back. Oh, what's that about? Who wants me now? Go to the shop. Other expensive hobbies. But yes, I learned an awful lot from that, and that's been a large part of me learning how to paint and do transfers and different techniques when modelling and everything is from that, despite the language barrier being there. We can do an awful lot by monkey see, monkey do, as I like to call it. I am the monkey. And those are professional model makers on there. Really are professional model makers. They're fantastic. So there we are. That's one half of our hawk done. I've had word from our pilot. They can't wait to get it into the air. So I'm actually really pleased with that tail. really pleased with that tail. Which is funny because I don't actually like this tail in real life. I like the older style tail they did, or for the one with the flag they did. I liked it when it was the 50th anniversary one, where it was the starburst, the bombburst type thing with the gnat going off in one direction and all the different aircraft around it. That was much nice. This one just makes me think it's British Airways. You know, it's the British Airways display flight rather than the Royal Air Force. But hey ho. So we're going to work anti-clockwise round our model, and sometimes it helps to have the aircraft in the same orientation, like that. So we'll just do that now. So 212s. Now I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. I recommend you do this one at a time still. I'm just going to do both of these rundles in one go, just as I say, to speed things up slightly, because this one's been going for half an hour now, which is as long as the build took. Mind you, I think if I do these, then I should be able to. Yeah, I will. I would do these two, and then I'll work my way around. Sorry, stop the video, and I'll work my way around the rest of it. Just finish it off, and then bring you back for the next part, which will be putting it on the stand and everything. Just a few bits to put together. The stand I won't be painting, just to leave the difference in the reds visible for you. But yeah, so because there shouldn't be anything on this side, because I can tell you whether it was easier or not doing it starting there and working that way as opposed to the way we did it on the first side. Okay, so I'm just gonna do these. This one goes on. Oh, is that not? Oh, this one's stuck here. Wow, I thought it would be. Bigger one didn't take that long. There we are. That's better. They're both moving. Yep, about there. About there. There we are. Make sure they're level with each other. So again, you see there's lumps in the wing surface. It would be useful with the Microsolver. We're just going to do the best we can with what we can, because I'm keeping it simple for you folks. So just before we do dash off to that, here's another project that's just coming to a close, and this is the Tamiya Mark V Spitfire. And you can see there the way you can see the panel lines reflecting in the transfer. So that's just awaiting its varnish coat. But that's what I mean by what the Microsoft can do for you. I'll get that varnish tomorrow actually. I need to do a final reveal video on that one. I mean, no one saw the build, but I like to do reveal videos for these when I finish them. Modelling is a very private thing for me usually, but I do like to share it occasionally. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and finish off all the transfers, put on a bit of old Harry Houdini while I do it, and yes, I'll be back shortly. So after a bit more work, roughly another half an hour's worth of work, the transfers are all on, and we have got ourselves a Red Arrows Hawk as supplied by Airfix, obviously, so we don't have that white one underneath, but we do have all the others on there. I can't actually honestly say it was much easier doing it this way than it was the other way, I'll be honest. Yeah, but they all line up, it all matches up when you look at it from the top, so I'm quite pleased with that. So yes, let's pop our water out of the way, because now we don't need that now. Oh, we are so close to the end, it's untrue. Okay, so something I've got to do now, which is just going to make life easier before we put the aircraft on the stand, is first off we're going to build the stand, and then I'm going to remove the masking off the canopy, so you can have a good giggle there, because I said earlier on about, oh, it's masked up so it should all be fine. Keyword should. But yes, let's get the stand drying first, into that position there. So we want spruce C again, and we want the hawk shape from here and the stand. Okay. Now you can paint these if you want to. You can prime it up, build it, prime it up, paint it the same way you did the hawk, or you could just have it black, or I mean, there are some Airfix logos there. If you're feeling adventurous, you could do those. There's no pegs on this, so checking that first. Okay, so now spruce C can go onto our recycle pile. There's a little protection bit there, just take that off. Right, so I'm not painting this myself because I just want you folks to be able to see the difference in the reds on between the plastic and the finished model. Just clean this up. Okay. So I'm running my finger around to feel where the attachment points were. Sometimes they're not obvious. Right, so let's now put a bit of glue on there. around the edge there. And then that goes into here. And what did I not do? I did not test fit it, did I? That was silly. But yes, you end up with a hawk-shaped display stand. So I'm going to put that to one side and let that all sort of dry up. Aha, there it is. Looking for. I'm doing a group build in this, an World War II aircraft forum, and I started the P-47 and couldn't find my cockpit tub, and there it is. So that's the paint on primer actually there. What you can see there is the paint on primer. So you see there's gaps and things in it. Doesn't matter. The priming agent will be there. Okay. It's good. It's a good example to have. Right. So let's get this. So I want my tweezers, and basically just want to come in and get the masking off. So all that hard work I did earlier, taking it away, but it's hard work so that we can have an easy time of it now. Masking a canopy is one of those things where I just picked it up and taught myself how to do it, how to make custom masks. You can buy pre-cut laser masks for it, but I actually was masking my own before I did that. Certain aircraft I refuse to do it all myself because it's just so much work. There we are, looking good so far. I see a couple of areas where the paint has bled through. You run that risk. Now, here's a piece of advice if you mask up a canopy, even if you use pre-cut ones, which in theory should be better than your own. Get off. Off! Thank you. Leave it to last. That was a piece of sage advice I picked up. Was leave your unmasking till last, because that way you've had the thrill and joy of seeing the aircraft all pretty much finished first. And then if the masking's not worked at all, you can, and you decide, oh, that kit's trashed now. Which can happen. At least if you've had the joy of seeing it in one go. All nice and splendid, so. So just using the needle nose of the pliers just to push it away from the corner, so we're not grabbing at the corner. But there's no way we could do this with it on the stand. Got to do it now. See where there's a little bit of white that might just need touching up. Do my best not to scratch the canopy as well. Pleased to see that white line's coming in really nicely. Still not sure about this whole not gluing the canopy on. Now if you do want to glue your canopy down, PVA is going to be your friend. Just let it sit overnight. Let it sit overnight so it's not so you give it a chance to go off, because once it goes off it'll be like concrete. But the big thing about PVA is it actually dries clear, of course. So So you can see again there's bits here where it has just gone onto the canopies. Gently just taking those off. Alright, I'm going to touch up the white a little bit there. That's not a problem. Sort that. As you probably noticed earlier, I've still got this fun to come on the Spitfire. A bit of nastiness there. Okay, so just gonna, there we are. That goes through that bit of nastiness. So overall, done quite well there with the masking. Just a couple of bits of white to touch up, which is not a problem. So let's do that now. You see there's our pilot. We've got a nice clean, clear canopy there. And the pilot can now see where they're going. Right. So now you get to see me do it the hard way. So this is the harder way, and this is the way I initially used to paint canopies. So to say I've progressed is actually I've progressed by making it slightly better for myself. And what the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of that. I'm just going to put a bit back here because I noticed the red's bleeding through. Notice the red's bleeding through a little bit on the tail here. Right, there we are. Right. So, on the canopy. So spray gently. Again, this side, and that just tidies that up a bit there. Okay. Now, following the instructions as per their written state here, or their drawing state, it says not to glue it to the stand. So we will follow that, and we will complete this. So I noticed it too. So, with that, you now have yourself, hopefully, a hawk. Wow, that's actually a really tight fit at the tire pipe, so we're going to have to brace it here. Don't use the canopy to brace it, especially not if we just put glue a bit, but there we are, we have a hawk, and I recommend sort of having it tilted, it gives it a bit more excitement. There we are. There is our Airfix hawk. Now, how you tilt it so the underside is facing away. So if you put it against the wall, say these tweezers are our wall, is to play it that way, have it tilting that way, so that if you can't see that there is actually no white triangle underneath. And similarly, if you turn it the other way around, you can't see that you haven't got that. So yeah, there we go. Thank you for watching. I hope that's been useful to you. This is a Christmas video, of course, because if this is for anyone that might have had the model for Christmas, and hopefully that's helped out. You can apply this technique to whatever model you build in the future. There's stuff in here that hopefully will be useful to you. Put that there now. I use those. I still use those, so they're really good. I think they're really good. So yes, all that's left for me to say is take care, be well. Thank you for watching. There we are. It's very well done. Take care, be well. Thank you for watching, and a very Merry Christmas. Season's greetings, whatever you celebrate out there, and in whatever way you celebrate it, and have yourself a Happy New Year as well. Yes, this is Crystal's Hobby Blog saying goodbye.